Hi everyone, welcome back to a Battlefront 2 modding tutorial series here. I know it's been a while since I posted a video. I've been pretty busy with some other stuff, so unfortunately I haven't been able to do this because it requires a little bit of free time, which is something that I didn't have before. And now I've got a little more time to produce this sort of video, so I'm going to do at least a few more because I know there have been some requests. And I definitely do want to make sure that you guys have the support that you need to get started with making your own mods for Battlefront 2. So in this video, it's going to be pretty short, but I'm going to cover off how to set up a command post in Zero Editor and in your map. So I'm going to just dive right into that here. It's actually pretty straightforward for the most part. So let's get started. I'm going to open up Zero Editor first, and we'll load our world up. This one is the example map we've been working with in the other videos, which is ABC. Go to Worlds, ABC, World 1, and open up abc.world, and just press OK. Alright, so here we are back in Zero Editor, and we can see the basic map setup that we've got going on here from the other videos. We're going to add a fifth command post into the Conquest game mode. The current setup has just a really basic diamond of 4 command posts, and there's 2 belonging to each side. So we're going to add a fifth one, and I think probably we'll just put it right in the center. If I click on the regions view here, you can see these 4 cylindrical regions which correspond with the capture regions of the 4 default command posts. So first, let's go over what is involved in getting a command post set up before we actually set one up. First thing I'm going to do here is go to the Conquest Layer, and I can't remember if I've dealt with actual layers in previous videos, but basically here's how they work. You've got the base layer, which is going to be selected by default, and that just contains generally all of your objects and props and things that are common between all the game modes. So for instance, on your map you'll probably have all the buildings and various props and pieces of scenery like trees and rocks are going to be all the same no matter which game mode you're playing, whether that's Capture the Flag or Conquest or Assault. So those go in the base layer, and then you've got your game mode specific layers here. So in the ABC map that I created, I chose to have Conquest and Capture the Flag included, so I've got a layer for each of those. And each of these layers are going to correspond with the objects that are specific to each of those game modes. So for Conquest, since it revolves around just capturing command posts, pretty much the only thing in the Conquest layer is the command posts that are capturable. And then in the CTF layer, I'll go over CTF in a different video. In the CTF layer, you've got these capture regions here, which are these smaller cylinders. You've got the flag, which you can see kind of in the center here, and that's more or less all there is to it in Capture the Flag as well. So anyway, in this case we're going to be editing the Conquest layer, so I'm selecting that, close the layers window, and let's have a look at the CPs. So I'm just going to take a quick look at this one here, which is CP1. So I'm going to go to the object mode here, and I'm in select mode under the object tab. So if I click on CP1, I can now see the attributes of this particular object. So a CP is, you can see in the little tooltip that pops up near my mouse, the top line is the name of that specific object, so in this case CP1, and the second line is the name of the instance which it comes from. So you can see here in this case it says COM building control zone, and the significance of that is that it is a common object that ships with every map type. I'm going to show you by going to the ODF file browser here. So if you remember from other object placement videos, that to place a new object or to select an object type, we would go to the browse, and then this particular object, the command post, you would find in your data folder under common ODFs, and it's right near the top, COM building control zone. And then there's a couple other types as well, including control zone CTF, which is uncapturable. Same with untakeable control zone, and you can use those for various custom game modes that you might want to make, or other purposes. That's completely up to you, but the standard one that is capturable, which is used for Conquest game mode, is just COM building control zone. I'm just going to cancel. So anyway, that's what we've got here, and the object instance settings are what we're going to look at next. These are what make the command posts work properly. So you might remember from the vehicle tutorial, we had a quick look in here when we were setting up the vehicle spawn for the ATTE, which spawns here. So I'll go over each of the important fields right now. The first one is capture region, and that's pretty self-explanatory. It's exactly as it sounds. It's the region in which, when you're standing inside it, you can capture the command post for your own team. And that's exactly what this cylindrical region here is for this particular command post. So this is the name of the region, and in this case it's CP1_capture. So if I want to have a look at the properties of that region, I would go to the region tab, and I can just click on this region here, or I could select it from the list of regions. I can see there I've got CP1_capture, and now it highlights this region. This is important when it comes to capture regions for a game mode. You need to make sure that the region ID and the class properties are identical. So you need to, in this case, have CP1_capture as both the region ID and the class property. So this I could change to CP5_capture, or just whatever. And now it wouldn't work properly anymore, even though the name is still CP1_capture and the command post CP1 references CP1_capture. The property has to be the same, CP1_capture. I'm going to go back and fix it here so that we don't run into any complications later. There we go. So it's CP1_capture again. And that's all. And regions, you can resize with the height properties here. If I wanted to make it taller on the y-axis, I would change this from 6 to, say, 10. Get a better look here. Maybe 20. 6 is actually pretty good though. In this case, doesn't really matter anyway because it's just flat terrain. And you can change the width as well by modifying the X and Z or Z. Whoops, there we go. Just leave that as 6. So anyway, we're not going to play with that really, but you can see how it works. If I go back to the Object tab, click on CP1 again, let's have a look at the second one. This is the control region field, and in this we have CP1 control is the name of the region that is our control region for vehicles. So that's the primary use for control regions. If I go to the region tab again, I can see here I've got CP1 control as this box region, and you can see again I've got the name in both the ID and properties field for the region. And again, that is significant. So I covered off how vehicle spawns work in the vehicle tutorial, but just keep in mind, again, this is very important, that when you have the vehicle spawn object here and you enter something into the control zone, you need to enter the control zone command post. So I wouldn't enter CP1 control here, I would enter CP1, since that's the command post that corresponds with the control region. It seems odd, I know, but that's just how it works. So let's go back to the command post, CP1, and the last item that we'll look at here is the spawn path, which in this case is called CP1_spawn. So what are spawn paths? Well, let's have a look at the path tab. And I probably did go over this already a little bit in a different video, but let's cover it off again. So this here is CP1 spawn. It's basically a network of points that can be used for something. In this case, for spawning units. They can be used for other things like attaching effects or helping to animate objects as well. There's numerous uses for them, but the main one is spawning units. So basically, any unit that tries to spawn at CP1 is going to appear at one of these points. And I can move these points around. If I'm under the path tab and using the move tool, I can easily just left click and drag, and it moves these paths along the terrain. They don't really snap to objects very well, so that can be a challenge at times. And then if I want to move them vertically, I hold shift and drag, and you can see that red line appears underneath to show the height above the terrain. So I'm just going to move that back to there is fine. And that's pretty much the basics. For spawning units, this is good to know. You need to look at which way the green axis is pointing. That's the other important part about spawn points, is the direction that the unit is going to be facing. So in this case, they're all going to be facing off to kind of the left there. They're all going to be facing this way when they spawn, just because I didn't really put a whole lot of care and attention into this, and just kind of left everything as default. So just by default, that's the way that they're facing. But if I wanted them to maybe actually face the enemy when they spawn, which is going to be coming from over here, then it's a simple matter of selecting the node I want to rotate, and just like with objects, I rotate by holding the X key by default. Let's just change the view a little bit here so you can see a bit better. So if I hold the X key, it's hard to see here, but you've got the blue axis, and by default that's controlled with the middle mouse button. So I'm holding X and I'm holding the middle mouse button now, and I can rotate this. It is possible to rotate these nodes on the Y, the green, and the X, red axis. It's generally a bad idea to do so, so I would avoid it if possible. But it does happen, and you can either correct it yourself and try and get it perfectly lined up again so there aren't any issues, or you can delete the node and create it again. Alright, that pretty well covers the spawn path, and there's nothing really complicated to the naming. It's just you name it whatever it needs to be called, so CP1 spawn in this case. And that is exactly the name that's referenced here in the spawn path field. Now there are some other properties attached to command posts, such as the bleed value, which is the ticket bleed. So for example, you've got your 150 tickets by default in Conquest, and the reinforcements will bleed a certain amount if the command post is captured. So you can change all those values here, and the voiceover settings and all that, but none of these are items that you would use normally. So anyway, that's the basic setup of a command post. Let's add a new one, like I said way back at the beginning of the video. And I'm just going to make sure I'm in object mode, and conveniently I've already got the control zone object browsed here, so I can simply go to the Place tab, and sometimes CPs are hard to see, so I'm just going to zoom in a bit. You can kind of see it there following my cursor. I don't really like the snap to grid placement mode, so now I'm going to free it up a bit. And let's go pretty well in the center here. Let's place it right about there. Okay, there we go. So I've selected this, and actually conveniently the command post has named itself CP5 since it is the 5th one here. So the next thing that I'm going to do here is go to the region tab, and to create a new region you, oddly enough, don't go to the new region button, you go to new group. Oops, didn't seem to work. There we go. And now we've got this box region hovering around by default. I'm just going to slap that right there and go to the select region button. I'm going to select my new region and just move it for now. I'll go down. It seems to be pretty centered on the command post there, which is what I want. You might not, but I want it that way. And let's change this. You can just have it selected and change the shape easily by clicking over here. I'm going to make it a cylinder, and I want it to have roughly the same attributes in terms of shape and size as the default one, so I'm going to change all of these to 6. And oops, it's not quite touching the ground there, so I'll move it down a little further. There we go. And remember, we now need to go change the ID and properties, so we go CP, in this case 5, spawn. You can really call these whatever you want as long as it matches what you have in the command post object properties. So there we go. We've got CP5 spawn as the name and property. Let's go to path and make a new path. Oh, there we go. And it just names itself path 8 or whatever. And what I'll do is, by default, when you click new path, it goes to the add node tool, which is good. That's what we want. So we can just start clicking wherever we want to put these new nodes. I'll just put them in kind of a rough circle around the command post, and there we go. So now I'll just go to, say, move tool, and I can adjust these and rotate them around. I have them all facing kind of outwards since this command post is in the center. Uh-oh. See, I think, yep, what happened here was this one got rotated the wrong way somehow. I must have had the wrong button held down. So here's a good example of that. You can try and rotate it back like this. I think this one got really messed up. So that's pretty close. Or if you're a perfectionist like me, delete, because I hate having it slightly off-centered. And I'm just going to move this one over to fill the place. There we go. Okay, so that's pretty well set up, nice and easy. Remember to click the path, go to path name, and change it. We're going to rename it CP5 spawn. There we go. And now all we need to do is go back to the object tab, select the CP5 object, and we just have to enter the names of those two items we've added in. So we go CP5 capture for the name of the capture region here, and CP5 spawn for the name of the spawn path. We can show that here so you can see that. Okay, and the control region is completely optional. It's only really necessary if you have vehicles spawning at that particular command post. Otherwise you don't need to bother with it. So I'm not going to in this case because I do show it in my vehicle tutorial. So now we've done pretty much most of the work. We can just save. Yeah, and I'll close that. And now we need to head over to our maps Lua file in order to have the game mode recognize our new CP. Because right now it's in there and it's not going to do anything at all. There's not going to be any functionality. You can't capture it, you can't spawn from it, nothing at this point. So let's go ahead and change that. So if we go to data ABC common scripts ABC and go ahead and edit the Clone Wars Conquest mode. What we need to do here, it's very straightforward, is we just need to basically look at the command post definition section, which is just these two blocks of code here, right near the top of the script. And we just need to pretty well copy one line, take it down, paste, and now what we need to do here is define the name of our CP. This is just for the purposes of the script. I could call this whatever I want. Honestly, I could call this Jim Bob. And in fact, I'm going to do that just to show you. I'm just going to call it Jim Bob. You can call it CP5, really, that's fine. I guarantee you it'll work if you call it CP5. Here's the important part. You need to make sure that in the curly braces here, that the name is the name of your command post in Zero Editor. So that's CP5 in our case. This has to be the name of your Zero Editor object. I cannot stress that enough. This we can make whatever we want, because this is just a Lua reference, and I'll show you in 2 seconds where that comes back again. This is how the game knows which object we're talking about. So you need to make sure this is the same as the Zero Editor object. So here comes the last part. If we copy this line and paste, this adds the command post to the objective as it says here in this comment. So we can simply go Jim Bob. There we go. So that's what I mean. This Jim Bob is just an internal reference that this Lua code uses to define the names of the command posts for its own purposes, to actually get it all set up in the game engine and everything. This is a pretty terrible way of naming them, so I am going to go ahead and change it to CP5 and CP5, but I'm just illustrating that this and this are completely independent of this. They just happen to be called the same thing. Alright, so anyway, we've got it all named now. So this, we've got CP5 is now a new command post, and we've added the command post to the objective, so the AI are now going to try and capture it or defend it if they already own it. So I'm just going to save, and we'll head back to data ABC, build, and I'm going to munge it. Remember to keep comm in check, because we did make some changes to the Conquest script, which is found under common. So we'll give that a quick munge here. Should just take a moment. There we go. So now I'm going to open up the mod tools. I've just added everything to Steam because why not? Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go to the example map, go to Conquest, Clone Wars, because that's the mode we've been working on. Remember, if you've got more than one era, so for Galactic Civil War, for example, then you're going to have some issues if you don't add the command post to that era as well. So here we are. You can see that we've got this command post in the center. I did forget to mention that it was assigned to Team 1, so I'll go back and show you that. But that's why I was able to spawn here as a Republic troop. Anyway, you can see that worked just fine. We've got that in the center of the map.
Hostiles have gained a command post.
Shot.
The command post is under Republic control.
But if we look at the map, you can see that's where we added the new one. So these numbers here don't correspond with which CP it is at all, so just keep that in mind. But we've got a functioning command post here. It can be captured. In fact, if I leave, it is going to be captured by the CIS troops there, in theory. maybe not. Well, that's okay. But you can see here a function I can press E and change classes and everything, just like any other command host. So I think that's pretty well all I need to show you. And that will pretty much conclude it for this tutorial as well. Sorry if things have been a little bit disorganized or didn't make as much sense. I am just getting back into the groove of making these videos, so bear with me if you don't mind. And I'll hope to have another video out fairly soon after this, and continue to explore some new topics that we haven't covered yet. So if you have any questions, head over to gametoast.com forums and ask away there. I am open to answering some questions in the comments, but honestly some of the problems that you guys are going to encounter are going to be too complicated to be easily addressed in the YouTube comments, so I do highly recommend setting up an account at gametoast.com. If you're running into munging problems, then it's probably because you're using something higher than Windows XP. If you're using Vista or higher, then you will need the munge fix, which I will have in the description of the video. So please make sure you get that if you're trying to make new maps or make any kind of mods on Windows Vista or higher. Alright, well thanks for watching, and tune in next time for another video. Have a great day.